So here's how this works. So there is a wonderful, wonderful website, powerlisting.fandom.com, which is basically a wiki of every single power, superpower ability from any show, movie, anime, history, like whatever. It's just overly comprehensive, overly nonsensical. And what we'll do is we will hit the random page button 3 times to get 3 random powers. We'll take those powers, create a backstory for a superhero or villain who has those abilities, and then we take them all to Central Park as our battleground, and we argue who would win a fight between these 3 characters that we've created.
We've done it 4 times before, and this is our 5th one.
Number 5. So if you like this one, you can go back and listen to all the other ones. So I think that pretty much covers it. So without further ado, I'll jump into the backstory for my hero. Not every hero comes from a tragic past. For some, it is at the humblest of beginnings. Flynn Jacob was more or less your average kid working on his parents' farm. He was a gifted tinkerer, always trying out new kind of homebrew inventions to try and get out of doing his daily chores around the place. And his latest endeavor? Honey collection. He hated going to collect the honey from the beehives, because inevitably, he got stung somewhere, and he got stung even with that beekeeper's outfit that's just like, it's just really warm in the summer days. So he's looking to get out of this chore. So the previous week, he'd misread his high school chemistry textbook, and in a happy accident, made a material that seemed capable of absorbing just about anything. So, of course, he took this, covered a large stick with that material, so that he could keep his distance from the bees and still collect the honey from the hive. It worked even better than he could have expected. He cautiously approached the hives, and as soon as the stick touched that first honeycomb, the entire hive of honey nearly instantly disappeared into it. But before he could celebrate, Flynn heard the unmistakable buzzing sound of the angry hive. None too happy about the sudden and abrupt, absorption of all the honey that they have. And the bees almost as one descended upon Flynn. He wildly swung his stick around trying to fend them off, but they were everywhere. He needed to be faster, faster, faster. And those bees just needed to stop moving. His vision and mind became a blur as he spun around faster than he'd ever done before it all went dark. He came to a few moments later, to the sight of the bees patiently hovering in the air around him, and a circle of flattened grass and the brush around him. Back to your hives, he thought, and the bees obeyed. From then on, Flynn was no longer your average kid on a farm. He became a hero with newfound powers. He became Honey Shot.
Honey Shot.
Honey Shot?
Honey Shot. I originally went for Honey Pot, but I'm like, let's keep him slightly more, slightly less shameful name here. So what are his actual 3 powers here that I rolled? So the first one is Absorption Blade Construction, which is the power to create bladed weapons capable of absorption. So there's a bunch of these in different fictions. There's maybe like a good 8 to 10 of different types of absorption blades, and they all kind of vary between like what they can absorb.
Like a sponge sword.
Yeah, like some of them are like really niche, like, oh, hey, this one absorbs like specifically the souls of defeated enemies, or this one absorbs like this particularly type of magic in this particular universe. But some of them are just like, oh, I'll just straight up absorb freaking any technique that you throw at me, like, just energy as a whole. So basically what I'm going to do for this fight is it can the things he's absorbing are generally going to be honey and bees.
Honey and bees, okay. Glad I don't have any honey-based powers.
Yeah, basically. And his second power is land life manipulation, which is, the power to manipulate land life. Basically animals that live on the land. And so there's a lot of different variations of this kind of like animal friend power. This one's a pretty intense one because it's kind of the way to find out exactly what they are is to look at who's like the known user of this power. And the only known user for this particular land life manipulation power is the Behemoth from Judeo-Christianity. So the Behemoth is basically a primeval creature from, created by God for all the land animals, kind of the counterpart to the Leviathan in the sea. And I actually have just a quote here from the book of Job in the Hebrew Bible, just because I kind of just love love the canter here of like just epic and at the same time like, what is this? Why is this sentence even in here combination? So I guess a reading from the book of Job. Behold, behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold his strength in his loins, and his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. He is the first of the works of God. Let him who made him bring near his sword. So he eats grass, has strong belly muscles.
He's really good at digesting.
Yeah, really good at digesting grass, but also like his bones are, metal and limbs are iron.
I think the last thing I expected on a superpower, this random superpower episode is a Bible reading.
And then like this wasn't quite where I was looking, but it then basically just talks about how God will go and fight the behemoth and the Leviathan and destroy them with his sword, which is the much cooler part of the Bible, I'd argue, where God goes sword fighting giant monsters. So that's just fun. And then the other fun fact I had on the behemoth is that his strength reaches the peak at the summer solstice of every year. And at this time of the year, the behemoth lets out a loud roar that makes all animals tremble in fear, and thus renders them less ferocious for the year. Which is, I guess, an interesting way to use that power. So basically, the actual powers that he gets in regards to animals, in my case, specifically bees, I'll have a slight limitation there.
Okay, so only bees. I was going to ask what your limitations are.
Yeah, he could do other animals, but he just chooses to do bees.
Okay. He's got to stay on brand.
Does stay on brand, yep. So there's animal empathy, where he can, read the emotional state of animals. Animal perception, where he can see through the senses of the animals. Mind control, where he can directly control the animals. He can also tame the animals. He can also talk to the animals through communication. So basically, has complete control of the animals in that he can like see through them, talk to them, control them, whatever he wants to do. Like has all the good versions of the power. And then his last power, if you notice, he was spinning around fighting all those bees, is accelerated rotation, which is basically Crash Bandicoot style spin attack.
Or like Tyler, what is his name? The Tasmanian Devil guy?
Yeah, like Tasmanian Devil too. Specifically on the page it notes this is not for drilling and not an aerial spin. This is for on the ground accelerated rotation. There's also, I'm not sure which version of this spinning they're talking about and what like game or whatever it was, but they keep talking about like limitations. Maybe limited turning in parts of a circle like 45 degrees.
Wait.
So it's like talking about spinning, but like sometimes you don't go all the way around. I'm like, how does that even work?
You just pivot real quick.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Like you can only turn a part of a circle very fast. I don't get it, but I imagine it as you can spin all the way around. And the wiki page does have a gif of Crash Bandicoot going round and round and round and round. So basically his signature move is to just release bees from his honey stick by spinning around really fast. And that is Honey Shot.
That was a clip from Absurd Hypotheticals, the podcast where we answer dumb hypothetical questions. For the full episode, click on the link in the description.